It's lovely. And yet you've still got separation.
Hey, Karen.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Hey, Beth.
Hello.
Howdy.
Give it a couple of minutes before I start. Wait for
Yeah, we
some-
don't have a
wait for
quorum
us to
yet.
join. I'm sorry?
We don't have a quorum yet.
No, give it a few more minutes for them to join as well. So is this the last Zoom meeting or are we still planning on doing Zoom?
Nope, this will be the last one.
Okay.
So is everyone enjoying summer?
Yeah.
Did it reach 90 today?
I haven't been out of my office. No,
Not too bad.
I shouldn't say that. I did go out once, but I was in the car.
It's 5:30. Karen, do we have indications that the other commissioners are joining?
Just Jason is on so far. Oh, and then here's Tom.
Okay.
We have a full audience.
Yep.
Residents. That's good.
Sure.
Still don't have a forum yet, though.
I just saw Tom. There he is. So we do have a quorum.
You do? Okay. All right. I guess let's call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Beth Kellerstein,
Here.
Terry Wallach, Brian Booz, Jason Wertz,
Here.
Chairman Patel.
Here. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Beth Kellerstein,
Aye.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Chairman Patel.
Aye. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the May 4th meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Roll call vote?
Okay, move out of the way, please.
I think Brian just joined too.
Yep, I'm here.
So we're currently voting on the minutes, Brian.
I will vote aye because I was present and they looked correct.
Okay. Beth Kellerstein,
Yes.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Tom Stringfellow,
I was not there, so I have to say abstain.
and then Brian Booz was a yes, and Chairman Patel.
Yes. Okay, can we get a consideration of PZ 211095?
Make the motion?
And I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Yep. Beth Kellerstein,
Aye.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Brian Booz,
Aye. Chairman
Patel.
Aye. And I should have stated that the proper notice has been served regarding this petition. Karen, would you like to present?
Yep. Sorry. All right. So the case before you tonight is PZ 21-1095. The subject property is 100 East Devon, and the petitioner is 4th Avenue Gospel Bible Incorporated. So we have several things under consideration tonight during this public hearing. The property is currently unincorporated. It's zoned R4 single family residence district in Cook County. And they have requested to annex the property into the village of Roselle. We wholly surround the property so we can annex them. And they've also requested to connect to utilities. So the annexation public hearing will take place before the village board. So as part of the annexation, they've requested R2 single family residence district zoning. When a property is annexed, it's automatically zoned R1 single family, no matter what type of property it is. So because they want to, they've requested R2, we have to have this part of this public hearing is for the zoning map amendment to consider the R2 request. The second request is a lot split. And then the third are variations to permit 2 lots of 75 feet in width in lieu of the 80 feet required in the R2 zoning district as part of that lot width, or as part of that lot split. And then the fourth and final request is a special use permit for a church. Just so to go into a little bit more detail about the requests. 4th Avenue Gospel Building Inc. is the incorporated name that they own, this group of families owns the property under. They've sort of been worshiping together for, I think, several decades in the Roselle area, and actually many of them are Roselle residents. They purchased 100 East Devon 7 years ago, and they've been using the house on the lot as their place of worship on Sundays, and then use it for Bible study and prayer groups. One other day of the week for the past 7 years. They originally tried to renovate the property through Cook County, but due to some building code issues, they were unable to get permits for what they wanted to do to the building without doing extensive renovations, basically. It wasn't very cost effective for what they wanted to do. So they've requested to annex into the village, and part of that will be the lot split. And then they'd connect the existing house, which is on the east side of the property, to water and sewer. And they intend to sell that house to a developer to build a house, or a homeowner who wants to live there, things like that. So for the R2 zoning, it's actually surrounded by R2 zoning. So R2 makes sense regardless of their lot width request. But R1 requires lot widths of 100 feet wide. So I had suggested R2 because the variation would be less. from 100 to 75 versus 80 to 75. And R2 actually better matches the character of the neighborhood that they're located in. And then for the subdivision, they want to split the lot basically right down the middle to create two 75-foot lots. The existing property is 150 feet wide. When doing some quick measuring of lot widths in the area, both in Vantage Point and Buttonwood, which are the two neighboring subdivisions, which are zoned R2. Most of the properties are 80 feet wide or larger, but there are some that are less than 80 feet. So I don't think a request for a 75-foot wide lots is out of character for the neighborhood and is a pretty reasonable request. And then the final request is a special use permit for a church. So they intend to construct a 24 by 35.5 building inside a meeting room that has 24 seats, 2 bathrooms, which meets our code, and a utility closet, so where the water heater and things like that would be. They're building the structure so that it could be converted into a garage in the future. So if they decide they no longer want to be located here, or I guess various other reasons, they'd be able to sell the lot with a garage on it where someone could build a home either attached to the garage, or it would be a detached garage available for someone. So they've been trying to think about, I guess, future use and adaptation of the property. The zoning ordinance requires 1 parking space for every 3 seats provided for a church use. They've shown 24 seats on the plans, therefore 8 spaces are required, and they have provided 11. The existing house, when the property will get subdivided, will meet all setbacks for the R2 zoning district. So there are no nonconformities that we'd be creating by approving this lot split. So I think that completes my report.
Karen, can I ask you a question? Because I didn't hear it. When you said that they are splitting the lots and the east one is going to be connected to utilities and it's going to be sold to somebody, you said?
Yeah, they tend to put it on the market and sell it as a single family residence.
Okay.
So one lot is going to be unincorporated and the other lot
No.
is going to be incorporated, or they're both going to be incorporated separately?
And they're both going to be connected to water and sewer.
Okay. And then the proper thing, they're going to have to put in a sidewalk
Yes.
and all the other components?
Yep.
And is that annexation happening together or separately?
So this will all be considered by the village board, likely at the June 28th meeting. And they'll hold the public hearing for the annexation. And then any approvals or consideration of ordinances and things would be at that same meeting. So we kind of package it all together.
Okay. Karen, did we get any comments from the public that possibly are not at this meeting?
Yeah, so I'll read the ones that are in the packet into the record, and then I've received several since the packet was posted on Friday.
Eric, a quick question before we go there.
Yeah.
So obviously there's some religious buildings or churches or, that are built within the neighborhoods itself, closer to the downtown. Has there been any other conversions within the community that I cannot think of?
Any of the like a conversion of a house would have happened decades ago, basically. I don't think we've had a new church constructed within an existing neighborhood. We've had churches put additions on. So the church by the village hall had an addition several years ago that you guys reviewed. St. Walter's has gone through multiple renovations and additions. Trinity has done some work as well. But I don't think we've recently had a conversion of a house to a church.
Thank you. I couldn't think of one either, but I figured somebody else might know. I mean, Beth, can't think of one. Can you?
You're just calling me old, but that's okay.
Ah, I was
I'm
giving you
kidding.
accolades for being here for your entire life,
I'm just kidding.
all 39 years of it.
Oh, you're so nice.
Um,
Any other questions from any commissioners?
I'd like to comment.
Actually, if you could just clarify one more time, what are they doing with the garage? You said that they're going to
So the
leave
existing,
room
yeah,
for
so
a
the
garage?
existing garage that's on the property now will be demolished. And then they'll be constructing what they consider their chapel. But it'll be approximately the size of a garage, and they'll construct it to be converted into a garage in the future if they want to, if they decide to, you know, years from now, sell the property to someone who wants to build a home on it.
So will this have a kitchen? I'm sorry that I didn't read the plan, the interior plan.
No, so it'll just be a meeting room, 2 bathrooms, and then a utility closet.
Okay.
So Karen, the existing house that's there, is that garage being broken? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so that the existing garage that is close to the house will be demolished as part of this
Okay,
plan.
and then the plan is to sell that house without a garage?
Yes.
I thought you weren't allowed to remove a garage without adding a garage.
No, you can, you don't have to have a garage. I'm sure a buyer will want to have a garage, and that would be as, you know, a contract negotiation between them and a buyer.
Just out of curiosity, if this house gets sold without a garage, are there going to be issues in building a new garage on that property once the new buyer takes over?
So the garage would probably be have to be located behind the existing house. Just for setback reasons, you wouldn't be able to put a garage next to the house on the far eastern side. So it would probably just be a driveway along the side of the house, along the eastern property line, and a garage sort of behind the house, like you see pretty common in
Is there
Roselle.
even enough room though? I mean, I'm looking at the aerial as we speak and just questioning that if we split the lot equally in between, which looks like it goes pretty much in between the 2 existing buildings that are there today. What and how would be the drive aisle to put a garage in?
Yeah, let me just pull up that information. So, they have so lot 2 has 30 feet between the house and their eastern property line after the subdivision. So that's more than enough room to construct a driveway.
On the east side of the house, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a single car. Oh, no, that is a double car.
Yeah, so you could probably build something attached, or you could do a driveway going back and then build a garage towards the rear of the property. I think there are a couple options that a property owner could consider.
And just for clarification purposes, I mean, the reason for tearing down the garage is just to meet the 75-foot setback, correct? Or the side yard dimensional requirement?
Yeah, so they don't want to keep the existing garage and convert it into their chapel. They want to build new. And I think part of the plan is to sell the house and use some of the funds from selling the house towards this new construction that they plan.
Right, but I'm questioning, why do they need to break this garage down? Why couldn't they could they still split the property up, build a brand new?
Oh yeah, they just don't want to keep the existing garage. They want to build a building how they've designed it, basically.
So, okay, so one of the questions one of my concerns when I first was thinking reviewing this, is there more, do we require more land around a church when it's butted up to a house?
No,
So the setbacks are no different for a church sitting right next to a residential home.
correct.
It can be that close, okay? And I ask that only because of music and singing and gospel, you know, all that stuff. I know that someone's kind of laughing at that, but I think it's still something that I wanted to ask.
Any other questions?
Will they be allowed to park on Devon?
I'm not sure what the parking regulations are, but they've provided enough parking for what the building can accommodate.
Are they allowed to park on Devon if they want to, I guess?
You know, I would have to,
It's unincorporated Cook County. There's no parking signs on the north side of the street, and I actually
That's
don't
what I
believe you
thought.
can park on the south side either, due to the bike lanes that are there.
thank you, Jason.
Thanks.
So, but, you know, as part of this, just in thought, you know, being respectful to the neighborhood, you know, if there was overflow, they'd have to go onto those hillside or into the Buttonwood neighborhoods and park, which were not set up for that. So yeah, but there's no parking on Devon, Tom.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And I think, well, they are providing 11 parking places. There's 24 seats, which require 8 parking spots, but that doesn't take into account employees. So
There
24 seats are for guests.
There
Guests.
are no employees.
So,
So
well,
the total population is 24 people, including, going to use inappropriate not the correct terms, but the preacher or the leader of this organization is part of that 24 number?
Yeah.
Okay. Pastor.
okay. Thank you. I was trying to, that's what I was getting at.
And that leaves 12 additional people for growth. Right? Because you got 8 parking spaces, so 3 per seat, 12 seats additional.
No. There's going to be 4 additional or 3 additional.
Right, so there's 24 seats. That leaves, I mean, that means the congregation could grow to another 12 people and be safe, correct? Or sorry, 9 people.
9 people.
Yeah, 9 people.
And still meet the parking ordinance. I
Still
think
meet the
what
parking.
Aaron is trying to
Is the
say.
footprint of that parking very similar to what's existing there today? I mean, there's a lot of paved driveway already.
Yeah, so the engineering plan shows sort of the net changes in impervious surface. There's no net change basically. So with demolishing the existing driveway and garage and then building this new parking lot and the new chapel structure, it's going to be the same amount of impervious coverage on the property.
Oh, I didn't get that. It looks much larger from when I was over there. Looking at it.
I thought it looks larger on the plan too, Beth, but I was also surprised how I hadn't noticed how big the paving already was that's there until I went and looked at it.
So are they keeping, I see, you know, a big tree. How many of the existing trees are they taking down?
They
There's
did
a
not-
lot of trees on that property.
They did not submit a landscape plan. I know there's a lot of bushes along the right of way. So some of those will have to come down just for installation of the sidewalk purposes. I don't know if we want to swear in the petitioner, so maybe they can answer some of these questions.
Was the landscape plan, isn't that required?
Not for church use, usually for commercial buildings.
Hey, on the existing conditions and demolition plan, it actually shows the removal of a couple of those on the north side, which are more ones that we probably wouldn't be as concerned about. Because they're specific to these properties, they're not on the property line. And I wonder, just based at looking at it, is the stuff to the east, whether that's even on this property or the other property, which would be the county. Karen, the rest of that land is the county's land?
To the east, it's actually ComEd right of way.
ComEd. Yeah, Hiram, let's open it up.
Well, I think I'd like to hear some comments from audience that hasn't participated or will not participate in. I think Karen has some that have been submitted. Can we get that input first before we open up to the public hearing?
Yep. All right. The first one, I just got off the phone with Steve Johnston, talking with him about the plan to subdivide the property and build a 2-car garage to be used for a chapel. I cannot attend the June 8th zoning meeting, but I want to let you know that I am not opposed to their plan. We have had a history of small churches start in town that eventually grow bigger and build proper facilities. I hope they succeed in building their church up, and this would be a chance for them to do so. Bill Plashare. The second one is, hi, I live at 390 Hillside and have no objections to their house church. Looks like a house and draws less traffic than most of my neighbors. This can go as a public comment, Matt Ramondi. Next, this is Teresa Stanius of 390 Ambleside Drive, Roselle. We are in receipt of a letter and copy of tentative and final plat of Devon subdivision regarding the consideration of rezoning 100 East Devon to R2. My questions to you are, who is Mr. Johnstone and what is his role in this venture? 2, why were we just notified about this May 20th when this was drawn up beginning of April? 3, how are we able to even read what is proposed on this copy of the plat? 4, what is the current status of, with the current status of mask wearing? There is absolutely no reason why we cannot have an in-person meeting at the Village Hall. Zoom is inappropriate on such an important subject, and most people are unable to use it. This is very important for all of Buttonwood, Ventura, and surrounding neighborhoods. 5, this is a single-family residence district and should remain as such. We need answers to many questions, which can hopefully be discussed on June 8th at the Village Hall. Thank you, Terry Stanius. Also, I'm sorry to anyone that I mispronounced their names. To Karen Brooks and Steve Johnstone, good morning to you both. I have spoken to a number of residents here in Buttonwood, the Springfield subdivision, and Ventura, all of whom would be affected if this approval went through. Have you contacted Venture and Springfield subdivision yet? This affects them too, as they have small families. Firstly, thank you for your prompt reply to my email of yesterday. I would like answers to the following as soon as possible, as I'm meeting with Ventura this evening and would like to give them an accurate update. The most important question, how does this benefit Buttonwood, surrounding areas, and Roselle? 1, do you have a picture of proposed small chapel, quote unquote, brick siding ornate color, question mark? 2, how small / big do you anticipate this chapel to be? Again, your copy of the plat is such small print, unable to read. 3, where's the church now? Is it moving from a local location or Chicago? 4, how many members of the congregation do you have now and expect to have in 1 year? Anticipated growth. 5, who is financing / funding this project? Is this an independent church or part of a larger organization? 6, What kind of services will be held? A, Sunday services, B, youth services, C, weddings, D, funerals, E, daily services. What kind of additional activities, fairs, carnival, etc., where you might bring in many people. 7, parking arrangements. Where will the congregation park? On the road or on our side streets, which is not acceptable. How will you confine parking for the church? 8, where is the congregation coming from? What is the percentage of local people who belong to this church? 9, will you have volunteers running it? 10, will this require Roselle to install traffic lights, stop signs, or speed signs? Traffic is already a problem on Divine with people driving way over the speed limit. 11, how will this affect our taxes with street improvements, etc.? 12, if approved, when will construction start/end? 13, we would like to have a meeting at the town hall. Zoom is not appropriate or possible with our property owners, so they would be unable to appreciate or unable to participate, or would that be your goal? I'm sure there will be more questions, however, would appreciate you answering the above. Next, hello, Karen. Thanks for your prompt reply, albeit many of our questions are unanswered, or albeit not many of our questions answered. With 30+ members, surely parking is a problem. Were there that many originally, or is the congregation growing? Are they currently meeting for services at this location? Where do these people park now or later when construction work is finished? Is the Albion Street another chapel or a private residence needing more room? Still lots of my questions to be answered. Looks like this may be a done deal without our input, with the public works expected to approve plans. Are you able to set up an in-person meeting with people here that are concerned? I think it will put people's minds at ease. Regards, Terry Stanius. And then a few more. Good evening. I'm writing to protest the rezoning of 100 East Devon Avenue from residential to commercial for the 4th Avenue Gospel. Although I'm not opposed to the right of this congregation to worship freely, nor their right to assemble peaceably, I'm concerned about the impact this change will have on the residential neighborhood. Specifically, I'm concerned about the negative impact this increased traffic will have on the safety for children who reside and play in the neighborhood. I'm concerned about the increased traffic and street parking in a residential neighborhood that was not planned nor designed to accommodate the weekly services concentrated on a Sunday. I realize the plans may call for a parking lot, but I do not believe that any amount of planned parking on that size of lot could adequately accommodate the parking load. Therefore, additional parking would spill onto Devon Avenue as well as surrounding neighborhood side streets. Therefore, I officially protest this zoning change and recommend that the Village of Roselle keep the zoning as residential. Respectfully, James M. Salter. We received your notification letter about a rezoning request for 4th Avenue Gospel Building, Inc. We live on the north side of 390 and have a church located in our neighborhood. The neighbors here have some issue with St. Mary's Assyrian Church that may or may not apply to the new church wanting the rezoning, but we thought there were several things you should consider before granting the request. Many or most of the parishioners do not live in the area. That being said, they come flying in and out of Larson Lane with no regard for pedestrians or local traffic trying to exit the neighborhood. If services have just let out, they just keep pulling out of the parking lot and keep going. Traffic on the street has to yield to them or risk getting hit. Parking is also an issue. On busy days, they park on both sides of Larson, making it difficult to get past the church with a car. I don't know if an ambulance or fire truck could get by, and that is a concern. In the winter, their sidewalks are never shoveled. If you are walking, you have to divert to the street to get by the church. In general, they just aren't good neighbors to those of us who live here. I believe churches do not have to pay property taxes. With that in mind, the church here is a drain on Roselle's resources. They use fire and police, and that would be fine if they did something for the community, like feeding the poor and or homeless, for example. But I never see anything like that going on. I'm not saying that 4th Avenue will be like this, but if they put a church on less than 1 acre, where are they going to park? At Turner Pond. That could use up all the parking for people who might want to visit the park. I am just asking that someone think about all of this and make sure that you feel that there are enough positive reasons to grant the variance to make up for the negative ones. Thank you for your time and letting us express our concerns. Cindy Sadowski. I also have several I've received since Friday. Good afternoon. We would like to express our concern over the rezoning request for the 4th Avenue Gospel Bible Inc. 4th Avenue Gospel Building Inc. on Devon Avenue. First concern is the number of people and vehicles on the property. This could crowd our streets and increase our noise level immensely. The parking on Devon and our side streets in Buttonwood would become a nuisance. The noise level would disrupt our quiet neighborhood, which is what we love about this area. Another concern is the increased number of people in Turner Park. This park is already used by so many outside our community, but with the close proximity to the park, we fear this would increase beyond limits of the park and spill into our neighborhood. Thank you for your time, and I hope these things are considered when you make this decision regarding our town and neighborhood. Joseph and Carla Nowacki. Next one, I do not believe the petitioners have met the burden for a special use variance for the lot to be split into 2 lots with a new chapel/church to be constructed for the following reasons. A, the approval of such special use is in the public interest and not solely for the interest of the applicant. The request to annex, divide, and build are not in the public interest. Rather, they are solely for the interests of the applicant. The property was purchased with the current zoning use in mind. It is solely for the interests of the applicant that a special use is being sought. There is no public interest in expanding the facility. B, that the proposed use at the particular location requested is necessary or desirable to provide a service or a facility which is in the interest of the public convenience and will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. The proposed use does not contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. Furthermore, such proposal to expand use beyond current use brings increased traffic and noise to the area, which has seen an increase in both traffic and noise pre and post pandemic. Additionally, parking along Devon near Turner Park has already met with overflow issues, especially when the soccer fields are in use. C, that such use will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be detrimental to the health, safety, morals, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity, or injurious to property values or improvements in the vicinity. Please provide proof that the proposed structure and variances would not be detrimental to property values in the vicinity. Allowing for the special use for a non-residential building already requiring permit variations to split the lot into 2 smaller lots surrounded by R1 and R2 residential zones would set a precedent that could devalue properties in the vicinity. D, that the proposed use will comply with the regulations and conditions specified in this ordinance for such use and with the stipulations and conditions made a part of the authorization granted by the Board of Trustees. Enforcement of said stipulations and conditions to limit overflow for parking, to limit additional traffic and noise from additional churchgoers, and the unknown potential risk for a detrimental impact on property values are all reasons the board should not grant the request. This was submitted by Kara Boroff Steets. And then, in anticipation of the Zoom meeting scheduled to review the potential annexation and rezoning of the property at 100 East Devon Roselle, I respectfully submit the following comments, thoughts, and requests for your consideration. My wife and I reside at 340 Lakeside, just down the street from the property under discussion. We have lived here for over 30 years. Neither my wife I anticipated staying here for this long, but clearly we love the neighborhood and have had the fortune to have great neighbors. I, like my neighbors, are concerned whenever something arises that may change the idyllic nature of the Buttonwood subdivision or impact our property value. Our worry is that rezoning the Devon property may, in some way in the future, negatively impact us and the neighborhood. As we know, no one has a crystal ball to see what will occur in the future, but we have enough common sense to project what might occur in the future. We have seen things that no one thought would happen, but indeed happen. This is what we wish the P&Z Commission and Village Board to consider during your review process. In my view, the main justifications for the village to consider rezoning a property are: 1, the property to be rezoned provides a service or product the village currently needs, or 2, the property to be rezoned provides a substantive increase to the village revenue base, or 3, the surrounding residents have requested the rezoning, or 4, the property to be rezoned contributes to the village master plan. Certainly, there are other reasons to rezone a property, but rezoning this property does not fall within the scope of these 4. The fact that all houses of worship in Roselle are currently zoned R2 does not require rezoning the property should annexation occur. It is not cause and effect. Annexation does not necessarily trigger rezoning. With religious services taking place at this location for some years without harm to the neighborhood, one would expect that without significant change in how this group operates and uses the property, no appreciable change to the neighborhood should occur. The property at 100 East Devon is in disrepair and unsightly to its neighbors, and improving the property is desirable. Given this and considering rezoning, it still must be incumbent upon the village to provide protection to the neighborhood in the future. An organization's plans today may not reflect how a property or organization evolves over time. In an effort to protect the neighborhood and its residents as a condition of rezoning, can or will the village require 4th Avenue Gospel Inc. to execute a legally enforceable agreement committing 4th Avenue Gospel Inc. to 1, member growth at this location to no greater than 33%. They have stated current weekly service attendance to be 30 members. And 2, limiting the scope of how this property will be used going into the future to the terms of the property use description contained in the 4th Avenue Gospel Inc. explanation of use letter dated 4/20/2021. No daycare allowed, with the additional stipulation that the time of worship and or meetings will remain generally the same, start and stop times as present. And 3, no significant activities on the property allowed outside the new chapel building. And 4, no acquisition of any adjacent property or building beyond the scope of their plan drawings submitted to the village dated 4/12/2021. If the 4th Avenue Gospel Inc. group agrees to these parameters, which generally mirror their submitted plan and information communicated to certain neighbors, we would be comfortable with the decisions of the village. Sincerely, Gary Crumu. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Lastly, the village is not obligated to accept this proposal. We have major concerns about this happening in a solidly residential neighborhood when there are so many other options for this facility in our community. In this case, we are opening the door to the same thing happening all over Roselle on ridiculously small frontage lots. To anyone living in a Roselle subdivision, this means that the home next door to yours or just down the street from you can be converted from a private residential home to a quote public use building unquote, with hours of operation that include loads of people arriving and closing their car doors at 5:30 a.m. on weekend days when you and your family are trying to get some rest. This is happening on the north end of town today, but it can just as easily happen in any other Roselle neighborhood tomorrow. If this plan moves forward, we urge the village not to subdivide this lot and ask the petitioner to place their structure further east and create a much larger natural landscape buffer between the homes and the building and parking lot. Out of respect for the neighbors who will be impacted, we also urge the village to restrict the hours of operation and consider creating some space for overflow parking on Devon near the property if needed. Lastly, we hope the Planning and Zoning Board fully understands the petitioner's long-term plan for this property and the anticipated growth of their organization. The plan calls for a garage door header on the proposed structure. This seems to indicate that the petitioner has a very different long-term use in mind for the structure and the property next door. The long-term plan must be disclosed in full so the board can understand the impact of that plan on our area. Barbara and Adrian Hochstadt. And those are all the public comments submitted in advance.
Okay. That was quite a list. Commissioners, any feedback or any questions regarding this? You know, once after hearing some of this feedback.
Some of those comments were pretty draconian. I think they think that the village has a lot more power than it does.
I have questions.
Sure.
Okay, Hochschild, can you explain the garage door? And I know we've got to swear you in.
So
I mean, are we going to hear from?
But before we do that, are we ready to go ahead and open up the public hearing, or do you want to have some commentary first?
Well, we're addressing, I guess, the comments from the audience, the residents.
I think I would let, in my opinion, I would let the petitioner maybe address some of these comments.
Okay, so let's open up for the public hearing then. Can I get
I'll
a?
make that motion.
It's already open.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, go ahead. So is the petitioner available?
Hello,
Yes.
my name is Tom Johnstone. I live on
Yeah, Tom, can I please have you raise your right hand? I'd like to swear you in. Can I have you raise your right hand and provide me your name and address, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Your full name and address?
Tom Johnstone, 21W 472 Terrace Drive in Medina, Illinois.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
First of all, I just want to say on behalf of Fourth Avenue Gallison Building, I'm one of the members of this chapel here. We wanted to really thank everyone for their time tonight. We appreciate all the comments, and we're here to try and set everyone at ease. I just want to point out that in the audience is about 3 or 4 families also that will be attending this chapel with some of the children. Many of us live in the immediate surrounding neighborhoods. We have small children, and it is our utmost desire to not negatively impact the community in any way. We wanted to point out that we've been meeting here in this chapel for 7 years, and we've never, to our knowledge, we've never had a single complaint or comment from any of the neighbors. We are aware that we purchased the property in a bit of a disrepair, and that's one of the reasons why we want to go ahead with this project, is to try and increase the value of the property. We also wanted to point out that right now the property is unincorporated Cook County, and by annexing, it is being incorporated into Roselle. So we're actually bringing tax dollars to Roselle, because the real estate taxes for this home are going to now be going into Roselle's coffers instead of Cook County's. We're investing somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 into the property with sewer and water, a new kitchen, interior improvements. So it should definitely increase surrounding values. Regarding the issue about cutting down the trees, virtually no trees are being cut down other than maybe 1 or 2 dead cedars. But like live trees, full trees are not being removed from the property. We want to also point out about the actual size of the building. It's only about the size of a large garage. The interior, like sanctuary area where we'd seat, is only 20 by 22. It's the size of like a larger living room, family room. We can't grow. Our method of worship is basically all the members would participate. We would have Sunday morning Lord's Supper and a prayer meeting on Monday evening, like a communion meeting on Sunday. So because all of our members would participate in these smaller worship gatherings, we can't grow more than what we have on, like shown on these plans. We certainly are not intending to have any other kind of carnivals, picnics, like tent meetings or anything like that. Nobody will be parking at Turner Pond. We can't park on the street because there's currently no parking signs on the street. Like I said, we've been meeting there for 7 years and we comfortably fit in that driveway that's there right now. One of the last comments about the long-term plans of the building, we're only framing in a garage door so that if the property is sold at some point in the future, we have no plans of selling this property at the moment. We all know that things change and as the decades go by. This structure could easily be incorporated into like an upscale home as part of an attached garage. And that's the reason why we have framed in a garage door, is for if we ever sell the property, it could easily be used as a garage for some other residential structure. The lot is very deep. I think it's close to like 300 feet deep. There's a lot of green space behind the house. And like I said, and in the future, a residential home could be built with this as a garage. So we hope we've helped to answer some of the questions. At this point, that's really all I have to say. And we really appreciate the comments and attendance of everyone here on behalf of the group.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I have one question, just for clarification for us and the audience. How many additional people would be ever attending any of these facilities? Sounds like you're already kind of capped out. It would be the same people you already have going there today?
Yes, I mean, we're very inclusive with our members. Like we have a lot of, full families, elderly people. So folks get older, they pass away, they move into care homes or nursing homes or whatever. We get some new babies. I mean, there's kind of a general cycle, but we are not intending upon any new members coming to this. We have a very stable congregation and we intend to be that way.
7 generations.
Mm-hmm.
What about the daycare?
We are not ever intending to bring in daycare or have any kind of a daycare. Our services are very short, usually a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. So we're in there and out of there pretty quickly. There is no daycare activities on this property.
So Karen, if they were to sell, let's say they do this, we allow this, and they sell in 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, this would be open for another type of structure that can be what? Other than, I mean, obviously it can become a home as they're trying to prepare for something like that. But beyond a church, is there anything else that can go in there?
You're on mute, Karen.
Thank you. Not anything that wouldn't require additional approvals. So the only way a non-residential use would be allowed to continue is if they leave the property, they sell it, they decide they don't want to be there anymore, and within 6 months, another church comes in. They would be subject to the same ordinance, but they wouldn't, the same special use permit approval, but they wouldn't have to go through the process again. But they would have to operate within the bounds of the ordinance. So it would include the site plan and the floor plan and all those sorts of things. So if they wanted to make any changes, then they would have to go through the process. But literally anything other than another single family home would have to go through a public hearing.
And if this was sold and somebody wanted to build a house there and keep that size of a driveway, which now I've learned that it's the same size as it currently is that size driveway allowed? Because it's huge. Like if someone were just to buy build a house And I know the property's deep, and I know, it's hardscape versus soft. But I'm just curious, because what I see happening more and more, and there's actually a property off of Roselle Road in a residential area that I've called on twice now, is turning homes into their place of business. And when I say business, I mean a contractor with his granite samples out in the driveway, his 3 trucks, and plus we had one that just happened next to the funeral home off of Roselle Road that turned into a landscaping company. So my concern is that by dividing these lots, we can end up with a home or a piece of property that is ideal to those type of situations.
So the existing driveway is 21.59 feet wide. Maximum allowed in in residential zoning district is 24 feet. Most of the parking lot area, I would imagine, is where someone would want to build the house in order to have the garage behind the house. So the existing, like the curb cut proposed in the driveway would be permitted to remain.
Aaron, if the existing concrete structures remain, what does that do to the lot coverage calculations? I mean, will they be able to, what size house could they build? Assuming that we keep the existing concrete driveways and parking spaces and all that.
Let's see. So the lot is just less than half an acre. So you could actually build a very large house on that lot.
Okay.
And not go over on lot coverage if that's what you wanted to do.
Okay.
So is part of the special use, are we approving or did they already go through the ZBA for the driveway? There's a variation there. Wouldn't they require to go through the ZBA for the driveway variance?
There's no variation for the driveway.
It's 21, the limit's 24.
Oh, I got that backwards.
Okay. All right. Any other
Oh,
questions, concerns?
yeah.
comments?
Oh, no, no, I thought I did, but it was, he said new kitchen, and that's pertained to the new house. I really wish that we had an elevation of this. I don't, why isn't there an elevation of this
Chapel?
Uh-huh.
There is one.
What page is that on?
Let me look at it. It is labeled page 34 in the packet. It's just not in color. It's in black and white.
Oh, I'm sorry. I kept looking for the colored one like the other house.
Yeah, so the colors shown in the picture are kind of what they intend the chapel building to look like. So a stone sill wall, and then sort of your, I think very popular right now, sort of navy-ish siding. And then the elevations themselves are in black and white on page 34.
So I don't see these garage doors on here.
And yet, I don't think they're planning on garage doors. I think they're just planning on a retrofit.
Retrofit, okay.
If needed later on.
Yes.
Karen, you're saying the R2 is required for special use as a church. The other churches within Roselle proper, those are all R2 zoned right now?
They're all various residential zoning. I don't see, sorry, I'm looking at the zoning map behind me. It looks like St. Walter's is zoned R2. It looks like Trinity is zoned R2. The Assyrian Church is R2. So most of them are zoned R2, but they could very easily be located in R1 as well.
Oh, it's not a requirement. It's just, that's what's
No,
typical.
that's just what
Okay, thank you.
they all happen to be.
Got it. Okay, wasn't sure. Thanks.
And are any of those special uses that we're aware of?
Yes, all of them are special uses.
All of them are special uses.
Yep.
So, and all those special uses predate everyone on this board.
Yes, St. Walter's originally got one a very, very long time ago. Trinity has one, and they also have one for their school. The Medina Baptist Church, I don't think it's called that anymore. Jubilee Bible Church, I think they have one. I believe the Assyrian Church, when they annexed into the village, they had to get one. So all the churches in Roselle have one.
Would it be okay to make a comment as both a resident and a member?
Yes. Can I swear you in? Can I swear you in first, please? Can I get your name, your full name and your address, please?
Yes, no problem. So Derek Taylor at 280 Heritage Drive, Roselle.
Okay, Derek, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I just want to say I really appreciate the concern of all the fellow residents of Roselle. And we moved in about 8 years ago as a young family. And we really appreciate the ability to use the property that like we have for the past 7 years. It allows our young children to partake in the services and without feeling intimidated around a lot of people. And it works really well for what we're doing right now. And just like to say thank you.
Fine.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments from anybody?
Looks like Deborah's raising her hand.
Yes. I have all the same concerns that a number of other people have expressed in letters.
Can I swear you in,
Oh,
please?
Can I please swear you in, please?
Sorry,
Your full name and your address?
Deborah Friedland, 132 East Devon Avenue.
Please raise your right hand. And then do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I have all the same concerns that others have expressed in the letters. Devon Avenue is already over trafficked. The people speeding by, there isn't enough parking. The road isn't wide enough to handle more. Some time ago, there were people coming around trying to subdivide the properties just to the west. And they were talking that they were worth tons of money and we could make a ton of dough, and it was all ridiculous. And that's not what I want in this neighborhood. I want peace and quiet. We've already got enough property density. We've got enough population density. There are so many other properties that could be used if they need to expand. And I notice that the word intend is rather vague. We don't have any intention of ever having a daycare. We don't have any intention of growing past a certain point. That's a mighty vague term. It does not provide me any guarantees. And I have plenty of concern over what this can do to my property values and the other property values. If we have one variance, what's to stop another and another? Because that's, I believe, what they wanted to do some years back with the properties on the north side of Turner Park that are older. I'm not in favor of it.
Karen, can't this be, if somebody else wanted to buy the house, it's there now, could they propose a whole subdivision? I mean, the property is really, really deep. So similar to what they did to the west and the north side.
Really, the only feasible thing is to split the lot in half, which is what they're proposing. Increasing, like if you wanted to do it into 4 or 3, you would have to build a road because we do not permit flag lots within the village. So I think really the only feasible way to subdivide this property is this sort of north-south lot split that they've proposed.
Karen, do we have any control over the parking spaces, the usage of the parking spaces and so forth? I mean, okay, so the petition is basically stated 24 seats, eight parking spaces is what's required, and they have 11. But let's say that they do need 15 parking spaces and they have a congregation to that size limit, then how would we know as part of the village? Is it something that we can control?
So if this gets annexed into the village and, you know, this whole thing moves forward, if they needed additional parking spaces, they would either need to come in for a building permit for review, or they would need to request a parking variation if that's what they wanted to do. As we've said before, there's no parking signs on the street, so Village of Roselle police officers would be able to ticket any of the cars parked on the street. So I think there are a couple typical ways that we can handle that.
You know, I know you said that splitting the lot is really the best thing to do. The more we talk about it, I don't think so, Karen.
Well, I just meant splitting the lot as they've proposed is the only feasible way to split the lot. I'm not saying that they should or should not split the lot. I'm just saying that there's no other way that you could split it where you're not building a road.
Okay, so I apologize for that. But I still stand with my opinion on this right now. And that is, since I've been on the zoning and planning, which is probably over 25 years, I've seen many churches come before us and ask for variances, and they grow. And if it's not this church that's going to grow, it's going to be somebody else who buys it and wants to grow it. I think it's better to keep the larger lot, build what they need today, and have the room for parking, have the room for expansion, because we can say all we want. I've seen it, I've heard it, that the police will ticket, you know, they have to come before us, they have to get approval, and then they're granted. And you've got parking on the streets. To me, I mean, churches aren't offensive in residential areas in my mind. I used to think they were a problem. I used to, when we would have a church like Trinity came before us, I went out, I think, for 3 weeks, weekends in a row. I counted the cars. I took pictures. I provided a binder for our meeting. I mean, I went above and beyond. And I was new to it, and I did all I could to try to be prepared for a meeting like this. And I've learned over the years that they're going to expand like they do, but if we don't provide the space for them to expand, then they will be parking on the streets. They will be taking up spots that you necessarily don't want, that are close to your homes. I think I would rather live next to a church that has a lot of land around it, rather than live next to a church that is already squished into this size lot and has nowhere to go but outside of the lot. That's just where I sit.
You have to raise your hand, Tom.
I appreciate that.
Because something is going to go there. They can sell it to anybody, and so I guess that's where I'm coming from. I'd rather have more land around it. So I'm not in favor really of the split.
Okay.
If I could make a comment. You know, I just wanted to just say again that
I'm sorry, who's talking right now?
it's Tom Johnson with the 4th Avenue Gospel Building.
Okay, you've already been sworn in, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I just wanted to, remind everybody that I totally understand the concerns about growth, but just again, the main sanctuary area inside the small chapel, it's only 20 by 22. Like, we can't grow. We can't. We're already with our, the 24 people in there. That area, that room is comfortably full. And we've been meeting there for 7 years. And again, the traffic is very minimal. We have, this 8 to 10 cars coming and going. We live in the neighborhood. And again, to Deborah's comment about the daycare, there just isn't, there's no room for a daycare. We've never had one here. The other thing about the growth factor is that we have these smaller chapels for our communion meetings, but we all attend a bigger church in Northlake. And that's why this church here, it's not big enough for all of our members. This is simply our smaller, what we call our communion meeting chapel. So we truly have no plans for growth here at all. And by all intentions, we intend to remain there for many years. Many of our churches that we have built, many members have gone to these churches. My family has attended this church for 7 generations. These other smaller communion chapels like that my grandparents attended, we owned them for 30 or 40 years, truly. And the membership stayed about the same because our big main gatherings are in our big main church. This is just for smaller communion meetings. And like I said, we can't park on Devon because it's no parking. We would not want our members parking across the street on Ambleside or Morningside, because then we have our small children here in the audience today. They would be running across Devon, and it's a busier street. So we just want to, try and reassure everybody, we are remaining small. We do not have big events, and we have absolutely no plans at all for, daycare, carnival, fairs, tent meetings, or anything like that. And we are improving the house that's there, bringing increased tax dollars to the city of Roselle.
Someone, Mrs. Bouchard, Myron has the question.
Okay.
I have not.
Yeah, before you pose your question, let me swear you in, please. Please state your full name and your address and raise your right hand.
Okay, my name is Amy Bouchard. I live at 382 Ambleside Drive.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'm concerned about many of the previous points that have been brought up, but there's one thing that I'm concerned about that we haven't talked about yet. Within the last 6 months, the Roselle Park District sent out a survey asking the residents in this neighborhood what changes we would like to see at Turner Park. And they offered many different options. So if Roselle Park District is considering making some changes and increasing the volume that is already occurring at a very busy park, it concerns me that we are also adding something in a very close proximity. So I would like for you to keep in mind or to consider the fact that this location is not the only location in our neighborhood that will be changing in the near future. There's potential that programming and buildings and different parks may be added to Turner Park, which will increase an already busy location.
Thank you. Any other questions from any commissioners, audience members?
I think Ashley has her hand up.
Okay, Ashley. Can I swear you in, please? Raise your right hand up and give me your full name and address.
Ashley Ramondi, I live at 390 Hillside Drive.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous and I'm at my daughter's dance team tryout, so it's kind of crazy in here if you hear music, but I actually live right across the street, not directly, but pretty close enough. And I actually, when the guys came over and explained they wanted to build a chapel, I joked because I've only seen them there one time. We've lived there since 2016 and I thought it was an AA meeting. No joke. I was like, oh, they must have a little AA group here. That's nice. So I've been really paying attention recently. They say they meet on Mondays and Sundays. I have never seen them there at all. I do not have any concerns at all. Gotten into some arguments with my neighbors about this. So if they prove me wrong, I apologize. But at this point, I stand with the church and I wish them the best of luck. Unfortunately, I do have to sign off because I'm at the dance team tryout, but I just wanted to say that before I leave.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good luck at the dance competition. The tryouts, sorry, tryouts.
So I guess, Beth, you gave your opinion. I mean, I've been listening to all these comments and my thought is this. I don't think I have a problem with this congregation getting together and what the demands of this group is, but I have an issue with the precedents. I mean, what kind of a precedence are we setting for the village of Roselle? And will we be in a position where we'll have small congregations like this kind of popping up in our residential areas? So I'm kind of challenged and debating on that. But I mean, with respect to traffic concerns, parking concerns, all the issues that have been stated by this particular congregation, and the fact that they're limited in size by what they're proposing, I don't see a concern that they will be problematic. But that doesn't mean to say that we may not have to kind of fight this battle again in the future.
Yeah, and it's, I guess the more I kept thinking about it and listening to everyone's concerns, I think that's where I was concluding about not splitting, and I'd rather see a larger piece of property with a smaller building on it right now. I think no matter what, there's something that's going to go there. I mean, the residents just have to know that. I mean, can we have things built all the way east down to Ventura, Karen?
No, it's ComEd's property.
But that's all ComEd. That's
I
called
was
ComEd.
thinking it was the counties, but it's all ComEd's.
Yeah, I take that back.
Hiram, if there's no more comments from the audience or any viewers, should we close the public hearing?
Yeah,
I was just going to suggest that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Well, I guess maybe we should do a quick call, make certain nobody's going to ask any questions.
Yeah, that's what I was going to propose. Let me just give it one final shot to see if anybody has any more commentary. Any other questions, concerns from the audience before we close? Okay, let's make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Can I get a roll call vote?
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Brian Booz,
Aye.
Tom Stringfellow,
Yes.
Beth Kellerstein,
Yes.
Hiran Patel.
Yes. Okay, Jason, Tom, what are your thoughts?
Here's where, go ahead, Tom.
No,
please.
you go ahead, Jason.
No, I want to piggyback off you.
All right, Tom, go ahead.
I'm just going to say they've been doing this for 7 years without any issues or complaints, and they're improving the property. So I don't see any big concerns.
Okay, Jason?
I kind of have the same partial comment. I mean, I do have some concerns here. You know, the bigger issue is that they've already been doing it. So they're already allowed to do it there today, whether we incorporate this or, allow the plot subdivision. Karen, what actually goes in order here in terms of what we're approving? Or we're approving for the
Zoning the lot, right?
Zoning the lot, splitting the lot.
we need to incorporate it before we can do anything to it.
Right, so it's unincorporated, so if they chose to remain unincorporated, they wouldn't have to go through any of our processes. They would just be subject to Cook County zoning ordinances, and I'm not sure what churches are required to do in Cook County. But for this process tonight, the annexation by the village board would get approved first. Let's say this all goes through approval just for, sake of the discussion. Annexation would occur first, and then the zoning map amendment, and then the plat of subdivision.
So Karen, if we, hypothetically, if the R2 zoning doesn't go through, is there a point to go through the variation for the 75-foot setback and the special use permit?
So it would be variations to consider 75 feet in lieu of 100 feet in the R1 zoning district.
Okay.
And it would still be a special use in the R1 zoning district for a church.
Okay.
So again, just to clarify, we need to first vote on annexation, secondly on the zoning.
So you
And then-
guys don't vote on the annexation.
Oh, that goes straight
That's
to
just the board.
Okay.
So that's how it'll work at the board meeting. For tonight, it'll be zoning map, plat of subdivision, variations, and then the special use. And then we don't really vote on the plat of subdivision because it's just a lot split. So that's just part of your recommendation to the board.
Yeah, they have, I believe they have the right to split the lot anyways, regardless of our opinion. You know, quick question in terms of process. Why is this in front of us if it's not even annexed? Shouldn't
So
that-
in order to consider the annexation, you have to have the public hearing for the zoning map amendment because they want to change it from R1 to R2.
Okay.
So I think the thought process is if their requests aren't recommended for approval, the annexation wouldn't be necessary. They wouldn't want to annex the property into the village. So
The special use would come back to us regardless though, right?
yes.
Okay.
So, and to clarify what you had said earlier, if another religious organization goes to backfill the property, they too have to reapply for the special use.
So they only have to apply for a special use if they're changing anything. So if they're okay with the 11 parking spaces and the building as it is and any conditions that you guys put on approval of this, they could just move right in. If they want to make any changes, they would have to request an amendment to their special use permit, which requires a public hearing.
Now, in the commercial realm, I've seen special uses that are attached to the specific user. Can we attach it to the specific user? Therefore, if they go away, the special use goes away?
I would have to discuss that with the village attorney. I don't know that answer for sure. Usually when we're recording these when I'm preparing the approval ordinances, it's recorded against the property and it includes the legal description and things like that. So typically how we do it is it goes against the property, but I'd have to discuss that with the village attorney.
Yeah, I don't know in this particular instance, but I've run across it before in the commercial world where it was a special use was specific to a user.
Yeah.
And that changed, we had to actually apply again for that special use. So I think considering they're there, that could probably set aside some of the fears of the residents. You know, if they're not adding more people or changing while they're already using it today, and yet it can't go to the next guy or change going down the road, that probably alleviate some concerns as to what this could turn into, you know, in the long run. And so,
yeah, you guys, I think, can make that as a recommendation for a condition. And then I would just verify that with the village attorney before the village board considers it.
I think I'd be comfortable with that recommendation.
I almost do is, you know, sympathetic. I'm always I'm less sympathetic when somebody moves next to a retail center and then they complain about the retail center versus the people that lived in a single family home residence and then something, you know, gets put in next to them. So we got to, you know, strongly take that into consideration, but, you know, they've demonstrated the ability to obviously operate there with minimal disruption to the area. The speeding on Devon, we can't solve with this religious group. You know, it's their 30 members are not I can't imagine that they're the problem on Devon. So.
Yeah. Brian, I did want to ask you if you had any commentary.
You know, we've seen lot splits in Roselle recently, and that doesn't seem terribly controversial. You know, whether it's R2 or R1, it's still eligible for the special use. So it's really just like Karen said, you know, R2 just sort of fits the shape and size a little bit better. And plus there's R2 and R1 near everything. You know, if I live next door, you know, would I want a building that wasn't a house, you know, perhaps, but, you know, I live next to an empty lot right now. And every month I wonder, is somebody going to build something there? And that's, you know, that's how it goes. So, you know, if somebody owns the property, they can do what they want with it within, you know, within reason. So I'm generally okay with everything. I think tying the use to them specifically is maybe overkill. But if that's the only, extra entanglement we're going to ask, then I guess I don't have a problem with doing that, though it seems very unlikely that one, they would leave and then someone else would swoop in within the amount of time and have the exact same size and be able to carry on the exact same
Well,
way. And if they do, then who cares, because they're still following what was laid out.
I think it's just because of the ability that the Village of Roselle has to police it. I think it's just a little bit of an added protection, put it that way.
I like it too. I feel more comfortable with that. I also really wish there was a landscaping plan. I think that should be tied to it. And
Is that going to be a showstopper for you though, Beth?
no, I'm just saying that I wish that it's, when we get these packets and stuff, that, everything is there, that, and we're treating, I guess where I'm coming from is that we treat every petitioner equally. So we've asked for landscape plans from other petitioners. I don't think that this, they should get a pass on it.
Okay, so then here's what I'm recommending. I'm recommending that we vote on the findings and fact as is on the zoning map amendment. Vote on the findings of fact as is on the variation, and then vote on the finding of fact on the special use permit with the condition that this be held against the petitioner and not against the property.
I would agree with all those, but a little support of Beth's comment. In these situations, we're typically looking at screening for the neighbors. Point in case, talking about the brewery and all the other components going next to residential.
Well, that's a commercial site, though.
Not sure if we have the bandwidth to be able to mandate that on residential law.
Yeah, I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. Like if it's a commercial property and there's a for-profit business there and that there's substantial construction happening, I think that's different than somebody's building a garage.
Didn't you say you didn't need a landscape plan for residential, Karen?
Yeah, I just double checked the zoning ordinance. There are no landscape screening requirements for non-residential uses in residential zoning districts.
All right, you guys feel comfortable voting?
Well, what was the other part, just before we go on? I'm not looking to drag this on, but
That's fine, Jason, go ahead.
is there a maximum occupants, that continues on and goes with this special use? Is that?
Well, I think the occupancy is spelled out with the 24 seats, and then we're maxed out with 233 with the 11 parking spots.
And
You can put a condition.
what do they have to be able to come and try to expand that at a later date?
They need to be able to build more parking spots, I guess.
It would likely require a public hearing because it's an expansion, of the special use. It'd be an amendment to this.
And how do they expand that then? How do they expand the parking if they need more? Because there's no, can you do a driveway that goes to the back?
I don't see why you couldn't in the long run.
I don't want to speak for the petitioner, but just I think based on what they've said in this meeting tonight, they've kind of built it for how they want. They've proposed it for how they want it. So I don't think that they have, there are no plan. I can't tell you how they would expand because they currently have no plans to.
No, I think the whole point, and sorry to put you on the spot with that, Karen, but the point being they have no intentions of doing it today. And I think one of the bigger concerns of some of the audience and other residents is, do they change how they use it later? There's really not a debate that they've already been there for 7 years. They've shown they're capable of operating within the site and within the community. So that's not a question. That's part of the reason why I think that it's the special use should be attached to them specifically. Yeah. They've already demonstrated their ability to be here and be good citizens within Roselle.
And I totally agree with that.
So, that's one part, but the other part, just for the other residents, again, I don't think the petitioner has intentions of growing this, but I didn't have intentions of having 5 kids, but I do. And so, you know, things change as they said.
I think you could put a limitation or a condition like any additions or expansions to the existing building would require an amendment to the special use permit. So you're kind of putting that in place for the future, that where they would have to come back and go through the public hearing process again.
Okay, that's what I want to
think
make.
that's unreasonable.
Yes.
That's what I want to make happen.
Thank you, Jason. That's a good call, in my opinion.
Okay, so with that said, let's get a motions for the finding of fact on the zoning map amendment for the R2 zoning.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote?
Brian and Beth. All right. Brian Booth,
Aye.
Beth Kellerstein,
aye.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Chairman Patel.
Yes. Can I get a finding of fact on the variation 75 foot and the split of the lot?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote?
Brian Booth,
Aye.
Beth Kellerstein,
aye.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Chairman Patel.
Aye. Okay, can I get a finding of fact on the special use permit for use as a church with the stipulations that the special use be attached to the petitioner, and number 2, any additions, expansions, or modifications to the special use permit must require an amendment to the special use permit, and they have to come back to the board.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote?
Just to clarify, so Kieran, you said any modifications, additions, or changes?
Yes.
Okay.
Expansions, actually, is what I said. Additions, expansions, or changes.
Additions, expansions, or changes. Require. Sorry.
No worries.
No worries.
All right. Brian Booth,
Aye.
Beth Kellerstein,
Aye.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Chairman Patel.
Aye. Okay, and finally, can we get a recommendation to the village board as discussed and stated?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Brian Booth,
Aye.
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Beth Kellerstein,
Yes.
Chairman Patel.
Yes. Okay, congratulations. Karen, is there any old business we need to discuss?
No.
New business?
So we will be having a July Plan Commission meeting. As of right now, it will be a public hearing considering text amendments regarding recreational cannabis dispensary uses within the village. So the board has directed the Plan Commission to consider these as special uses in the business zoning districts. So I'll come prepared with how other communities have permitted these uses within their corporate limits, including various, distance limitations and all sorts of things. So you guys can, make a recommendation to the board on how adult use cannabis dispensaries are regulated within the village.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, 5 times fast.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Quick question, Karen. Is that going to involve, I mean, isn't there really only a small area within Roselle that they can go to even meet the state guidelines?
So the state guidelines are pretty bare. Really, the only guidelines in the state are distances between dispensaries.
In schools?
any other restrictions are put in place by the municipality. So really, if we wanted to, you can make it a permitted use in like every business district if you wanted to, or ORI. I don't think that's our intention, and I don't think that's the desire of the residents, nor is it the desire of the village board. But the state law does not really have any restrictions in it.
Okay. Hey, Jason, before we adjourn, just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for pulling those things out of the bag. That was a good call.
Yeah, I thought so too, because it's always my concern is what happens if they do leave.
It's
You know, and again, when I think about the landscape place next to the funeral home on Roselle Road, you know, that was a home.
Yep.
And that's what I always wanted to avoid. I had
How did that sneak in? Is it incorporated?
So it's incorporated. It was supposed to be, not to get too into the weeds on this, he had originally asked staff to rezone the house commercial, so he could operate his landscaping business out of it while also living in it, which would be spot zoning. So staff told him that that was not possible. So he applied for a home occupation, which is allowed. Contractors are allowed to operate out of their house, but there are specific conditions within the zoning ordinance that they're allowed to operate out of. And he was not operating within those conditions. I believe he's meeting those conditions now, but we were going through the citation and adjudication process with that property, which can be time consuming. But as far as I'm aware, that property is now in conformance with the zoning ordinance.
So a contractor can operate, because there's another one off of Roselle Road that I had said that I have called on a couple times. So you can have trucks and you can have your materials and all that, and
so you can, under certain conditions. I'll pull it up real quick. So the conditions are that no more than 20% of the gross floor area of your house, basically of the dwelling unit, or 400 square feet in area, whichever is smaller, shall be dedicated to the home occupation. And that includes vehicles, that includes material storage, all those sorts of things. So I always recommend people can anonymously submit code enforcement sort of violation concerns on our website if they see something, because we're just small village staff. We can't be everywhere seeing everything. So we really depend on residents to report things that they think may not be appropriate.
so you can have that coverage with your business materials and stuff, but then you can also have a boat, because that's not part of the business.
Correct. As long as the boat is stored per the zoning ordinance, which requires it to be behind the front setback line and things like that.
It just, with the landscape, you don't see a whole lot during the summer when the bushes are in bloom, but in the winter time, those bushes shed their leaves and you can see the orange and blue trucks coming down Roselle Road, which is, one of our main thoroughfares. So I don't know, those type of things are what I always worry about. And I was not having a church there. To me, that doesn't bother me at all. I actually think it's kind of a good spot for a church. It was just more the way it was, it's being divided, and what are we left with if they do move or they sell it? That's looking beyond the initial use is what I like to do.
Yep. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved. Second.
Roll call vote?
Jason Wertz,
Yes.
Brian Booz,
Aye.
Beth Kellerstein,
Aye.
Tom Stringfellow,
Aye.
Chairman Patel.
Aye.
Night, everyone.
Great, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.